Numbers.
Ready? I'd like to call to order the May 25th, 2022 Long Hill Township Committee meeting. Let's see, Madam Clerk?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call and information, were electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. Public comment period will be held in the order it is listed on the meeting agenda. Committeeman Lavender?
Present.
Committeeman Ray?
Present.
Committeeman Berleza?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Present.
Mayor Dorsey?
Here. I'd like to all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we get started, I'd just like to take a brief moment of silence in honor and remembrance of all the people that have been basically shot down in Buffalo and Texas in the last couple of weeks. It's unfortunate that we have to keep doing this, but until people act to try to prevent these things, we're going to have to, unfortunately, keep having these conversations. So, brief moment of silence. Thank you. All right. The first thing on the agenda is a proclamation and presentations of historical plaques, and we're lucky enough to have the town historian, which people don't even know we have. We do have a town historian, and more importantly, he's a miniature schnauzer enthusiast, Sam Cornish. So, Mr. Cornish, you want to come on up? And just so that people know, these are through the Historical Society, I believe the Historical Society, HPAC, they did some research, and there's going to be 2 plaques presented today to both the Millington and Sterling Fire Companies. Mr. Cornish will fill in the blanks. Both, as we know from the great party they threw a few years ago, both organizations were founded in 1913. Millington built their firehouse in 1913, and obviously they expanded on it since then. And the Sterling Firehouse, with its current property, was completed in 1952. So, Mr. Cornish, the floor is yours. And just for point of reference, we are luckily and honored to have both Chief Pat White from Millington Fire Company and Chief John Whitmore from Sterling will be here too. Mr. Cornish, the floor is yours.
I have not a lot to add, but basically, it's also in memory of a tribute to all the volunteers that have done this since 1913 for over 100 years, and discussed the training. In 1913 they were flying by the seat of their pants. Now they have all this training, and now I'm using this one. Okay, so I have two plaques, one to present to each chief. So would the chiefs please come up here? You're getting the other order. So, Pat? We ask you to.
Yeah.
We have photographer.
I'm going to roll the picture.
Yeah, get the man.
Just move over so you don't got the mic.
Have we done? Oh.
Oh, you're not going to give John, not give Sterling his?
No, we'll get
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do
one at a time.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Ready?
Wait, Mr. Cornish, you got to do
Oh.
Got paparazzi here today.
All right, now we have Sterling.
Sterling.
We'll see that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
109 years.
All right.
That's very good.
Use a wide angle.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it.
No, it's not.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, HVAC, thank you, Mr. Cornish, and most importantly, thank you to all the volunteers over the last 100 years to both fire companies. You do great work. All right, so next is, are you ready with the FirstNet? Okay, so next we have a presentation of Joe Greco. He's a sales consultant for FirstNet to discuss police radios.
So, Mr. Greco, since you are on Zoom, if you could unmute yourself?
Everybody hear me okay?
Just hang on, let's turn up the volume. That's not on you, Mr. Greco, hang on. Once we get the volume up, Mr. Greco, I'll just let you introduce yourself and at least explain what you do and who you are, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's becoming apparent this meeting doesn't take place without Megan.
Yeah.
She's running around here, there,
All
photographer.
right, wait, Mr. Greco, just test this real quick, make sure it's louder.
Can you hear me okay?
That better? We'll crank it up just a little bit more. We'll do one more crank up, and then we'll see, then we should be good. You're clear, it's just volume. All right, wait, Megan, you ready? Yep. Try again, Mr. Greco.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great.
All right. So, Mr.
Feel like
Greco, go
Verizon's
ahead.
salesperson. So can I share my screen with you? Or do you have their presentation in front of you?
We do.
We do, but Megan will just double check so she can get it on for the viewing audience.
I can share my screen. I don't know if that'll work on your end.
That computer.
Hang on. Oh, nice job. The assist. Right? There we go. Oh, okay.
It's this one.
Oh, just unplug it if you can. Can you unplug it right here? Push that thing down. There you go. Oh, all right. That was weird.
Sure.
Yeah, we're all right.
Sorry about that.
Huh. All right.
So do you want to do presentation?
There you go. So can everybody hear me okay still?
Yes, sir.
So a little bit of background about me first. I think it brings, a little bit of credibility to the township committee. My name is Joe Greco. I am a retired law enforcement officer. I served in Reddington Township for 27 years. The last 5 years, I was the chief of police there. I also was one of the first, subscribers to FirstNet when they came on. So I have a little bit of knowledge of the background of how it works and, how it can be helpful to your township and to the police department, your fire company. Primarily, my job is to sell to agencies, consult agencies, really go out and just promote our product. Right now, we're offering free Cradle points, and I think that's kind of why I'm here tonight, but I still want to give you kind of a background of how FirstNet came about, because I think it's somewhat important. I'll breeze through it just because I don't think some of the stuff is going to be pertinent to the township committee or important to you. So if you could just go to the next slide. FirstNet was built, we all remember 9/11, or most of us remember 9/11, huge communication failure across the board. That's what came out of the 9/11 Commission report. And FirstNet was, can you still hear me okay?
Who knows?
Mr. Renowitz, please stop interrupting the meeting.
Let's see the slides, Mayor.
I'm going to have you removed if you act up
Go
again.
ahead. I'm a mere taxpayer of 42 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Put up the slides.
It's right there. It's right there.
Where?
Right there.
Oh, do I need to run up here and look at it? Administrator, is that what I need to do?
You might
We
get-
One more
have
outburst and we're removing you.
We put a man on a meeting moon 53 years ago. We can't put up a slide? You are bad, Mayor. This is horrible.
We can go home and
Any
watch it.
questions? My daughter is disgusted with you, how you've been treating me for the last 42 years. Keep smiling.
Go home. All right, go ahead,
You
Mr.
go
Greco.
home.
Sorry to interrupt you with that rude behavior from one of our
Yeah, let's
residents.
see the slides.
Mr. Greco, go ahead.
53 years.
I'm happy to share the slides
Oh,
with
no, we can
anybody.
see him fine, sir. It's monitored, it's up here on the thing. He just doesn't want to look, but go ahead.
It's 24 inches.
Mr. Greco, if you can give your presentation and explain it to us in words, that would help.
Thank you.
Okay, so FirstNet was built, came about because of the 9/11 Commission report. So there's two real entities to FirstNet. So you have FirstNet, the government entity, which oversees FirstNet, AT&T. When it was built, when FirstNet came about, AT&T bid on the FirstNet proposal. They have a 25-year contract with the federal government. We have federal oversight. They check and make sure that we're doing a good job and that we're doing exactly what is contracted out. And that's really kind of how it became FirstNet.
Officer, can you please remove Mr. Bernowitz from this meeting? We're trying to have a serious conversation with Mr. Greco, and he
I'm
consistently
trying to see it.
interrupts.
I'm trying to see it.
Sorry, Mr. Greco. Please
That's all
continue.
right. So if you could go to the next slide. All right, so there's three types of users. We have the primary users, which are, the obvious, your first responders, fire, law enforcement, EMS, emergency management. Then you have extended primary users, which would be anybody that would really support us. So your DPWs, your tow companies, your transportation, hospitals, utilities, any of those would be your extended primary users. And then you have subscribers. Subscribers are your users, but on the personal level. So each individual police officer or firefighter could get onto FirstNet and have FirstNet really takes care of the first responders. They actually save quite a bit of money if they choose to move over. You could just go to the next slide. So with FirstNet, you're getting priority preemption. Priority is just that. You have priority on the network. So we built out a network dedicated just for first responders. So you won't see it on every day, and on the next few slides, you'll see kind of what I mean, but you won't see it on an everyday use. If you go to a baseball game or a football game or a heavily 100,000 people are attending, you'll see it on that end because other people won't be able to make calls, they won't be able to send text messages, send videos, where FirstNet phone will be able to do all that because of their priority and the preemption. So the priority is more or less them going to the front of the line. The preemption is moving everybody else off the network when something happens. If you could go to the next slide. So this is kind of your everyday, right? Band 14, sunny day, nothing's really going on. If you go to the next slide, the network starts to get built up. If you could just go to the next, yeah, there you go. So you'll see more traffic will start to go onto that primary users. And as you see, go to the next slide, it'll start to actually push more users off to allow all the first responders, to the point where if you go to the next slide, it'll actually push all of the consumers off of the network so that all of the first responders, and this is worst case scenario when, hopefully it never happens where, there's a mass event where, law enforcement, federal government are all coming into, a situation where they need the network. It's going to push all consumers off of the network and allow us to have the priority. If you go to the next slide. So FirstNet is, not only do we offer, yeah, there you go. The FirstNet deployables, this is very important because if you have a planned event, it's, in Reddington Township, we had the Balloon Festival. I'm sure everybody's heard of it or actually been to it. There's 100,000 people that come to this event. you may not need any of the deployables. It's really when something happens that you would need a deployable. We can bring a SatColt, which is this truck. It's a satellite on wheels. We'll bring it out, and this is for any customer. So if something happens, they'll bring this satellite out to your location, free of charge, and they'll light up all the first responders that are on FirstNet. We have drones. We actually have a blimp. We have CRDs, which are compact rapid deployables, which we deploy pretty regularly. It really is a good benefit to your first responders, just being able to have that type of support. If you go to the next slide, this will explain, I think some of you have a little bit of knowledge about the interoperability because of the Tango is more or less the same thing. It's on the back end of it. It's a ROIP kit where it connects your LMR radio to a cell phone. So wherever you have LTE coverage, you can have your LMR radio. And it's a great feature. I don't know that it's there yet to be dedicated to that, but I do think that we're there as far as augmenting your everyday users of administration, your detectives, anybody that would be out on the road maybe in plain clothes. They could bring their phone with them, and now they have communication through that cell phone. Does anybody have any questions about the interop? I know that was kind of a subject that had come out. We can wait till the end if you want.
Yeah, we'll wait till the end. Keep going.
So if you go to the next slide, and this is really my last slide. So the only reason I put this in, when I came on to FirstNet back in December, I still really didn't understand, how they deploy everything. So when we come out to deploy to an agency or to a township, we bring everything with us. So we'll touch every phone, we'll touch every device, we'll make sure your email's working, we make sure the phone's working. I go to 99% of my deployments, and I make sure that the customer's happy before we leave. And that goes along with, I'm certain because, I had Verizon with Reddington Township for many years. One of the things that FirstNet is doing is giving me the ability to be dedicated to my customers. My customers at Hunterdon County, Union County, Essex County, and Morris County. So you don't have to go to the 1-800 number. You could call me, and I may not be able to give you the answer, but I'll certainly put you in the direction because I understand, how important it is to get an answer or answer an email. Maybe it'd be on a Friday or Saturday night. I know what it's like. So, I truly do understand and I care about the customers. The next slide is really just about, it's me. That's my information, that's my cell phone number and my email address.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, sir.
So, Joe, this is Scott Lavender. You and I spoke on the phone. I really appreciate you taking some time to be with us tonight.
Sure.
And I know this is a very technical presentation, and a lot of folks in the audience didn't have a chance to see the slides, but I think you did a good job leading us through it. I can tell you I can't see the slides from here. My eyesight's bad. But I wanted to ask you a number of questions that I think maybe will help demystify this for the lay people that are listening to this.
Sure.
And I may not understand everything, but as I go through it, if you can kind of unwind it, that would be helpful. So FirstNet is built on cellular technology, is that correct? Same technologies as our cell phones through AT&T's network, but it has this capability to reserve or close off the bandwidth so that it's only limited to first responders. Is that a right understanding?
Correct. Band 14 is built just for first responders, so no commercial user could be on Band 14.
So when we
That's
talk
not
about
the only-
when we talk about like 9/11 when the towers went down, a lot of people couldn't get cell phone traffic through because it was overloaded, right?
That's absolutely exactly the scenario.
And that's what FirstNet was supposed to solve, is in the case of a disaster, it reserves this bandwidth so that first responders, police, fire, EMS can communicate to each other uninhibited, right?
Yes, sir.
And FirstNet has a special relationship with the federal government?
So the relationship is more of oversight. So they oversee our day-to-day. They make sure that we're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing as far as the contract goes. State contracts, just handling the day-to-day business. They also will come out and they will, David Cook is one of the FirstNet Authority people that I work with pretty much on a daily, weekly basis. He'll come out to my customers and explain kind of the oversight that they provide.
Okay, so if we set to aside the reserved bandwidth, the reserved access feature, which is a great thing, and we just look at the service, at its core, the communication modality is cellular service. So this can work through normal cell phones, assuming you have the configuration or the SIM card, right?
Correct. It's more or less the SIM card that dedicates the phone to, so you could put a FirstNet SIM in almost any device as long as it's, we call it FirstNet ready. There are devices that are not on there, but 9 times out of 10, all of the latest and greatest are on that. Most routers, laptops, cell phones, they're all on, capable of handling a FirstNet SIM.
Okay, and then the coverage, is it identical to the coverage maps that you would see for AT&T cell phone service, or is it a different coverage map?
So yes and no. So there are towers that also are just band 14 towers, out there. So you're not only using the commercial AT&T towers, you might be on you could be on a T-Mobile tower, you could be on a Verizon tower with the band 14, on that. And I'd be happy to show you, at some point, some of those towers that are in close proximity to, Long Hill for sure.
And so FirstNet was the first to the market with this, and Verizon, I think, has their frontline service. Can you kind of distinguish between the two? What are the differences?
So AT&T they bid on this project, this 25-year commitment. I'm not even sure, I don't think Verizon even bid on it. I think AT&T was the only one that bid on the FirstNet, proposal, if you will. Verizon, they don't have a dedicated network. They may, say it, but they're, the only ones that were given this was AT&T.
Right.
They'll say that, yes, they have the priority and preemption on their phones, but, I have to be honest with you, you could, they say a lot of things. T-Mobile has a pretty good plan out there right now, but, their coverage just isn't very good.
Right, and I think you mentioned some of the things like the mobile towers and the drones and stuff like that, and that's probably not stuff that's applicable to us because we're not that rural.
Well, I would say that the drones and the deployables are for customers like yourselves, yeah. Just for an example, let's just say you lose a cell tower in one of these storms that, these storms that are happening. They're happening once every 10 years, they're not happening, every year, once a year. You could request a deployable, and we have to have it out there in a certain amount of time. It has to be out there in 15 hours.
Okay, yeah, all right, that's good to know. That's excellent, actually. So then, let's pivot into the interop. So the interop is basically a cradle which can send radio through the cellular signal, right?
Yes. So you already have the ability to do that. You are using, or your police department is using Tango Tango.
Correct.
Which is just an application. It's the same back end where they put a ROIT kit on the back end. It's radio over IP. And it connects to a mobile radio, and then that sends the signal to the LTE coverage, and vice versa.
Yeah, for the audience's benefit, at county, they have a little interface and they stick a radio in it, and the radio talks to that, and the interface sends it out to the internet and into broadband, and it gets to cell phone. Tango Tango is the app the county uses. FirstNet has their own offering for an interop, so we probably wouldn't be using that. Would that be right, Joe?
Right, so the benefit, and, you know, the chief and I spoke about this, you know, he could stay with Tango Tango if, you know, he chose to do that. The problem I foresee is that, let's just say there's a problem with Tango Tango. I don't support Tango Tango. I support AT&T's push-to-talk feature, which that's the interface for the interop. I can support that. I can't support the Tango Tango. You know, if it were to fall onto that application, you know, I just don't know where we would, as long as there's LTE coverage, it should work.
So let's talk about, we're going in the right direction here, dual band radios, right? So radios or handsets, push-to-talk handsets that can take the signal from county and cellular service. So is that supported through FirstNet if we're using the FirstNet interop?
They are. If we're talking, are we talking about like the Harris radios that are capable of having a SIM in it? Is that what you're referring to, or are you just referring to the interop with the Sonim cell phone?
You know, in the conversations I've been having with Chief Naga, you know, he's talked about the advantage of having a single device which can do both the county radio and, you know, a Tango Tango or a FirstNet. In this case, let's just limit it to FirstNet. And so that's a big advantage, because then officers just have to carry one device, and then they've got guaranteed, you know, access through our county dispatchers, either through the radio or through the cellular service.
Right, and I think that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about just the Sonims, which they kind of look like a radio. I think your officers are already carrying them. It's a Sonim XE5. So they refer to them as radios because they look and they feel like a radio. They have a mic extender on them. They do everything that a radio has. So yes, that is just basically switching out a SIM card and moving it over to, so you wouldn't even need new devices. You could use those existing ones.
Okay, all right. So let's shift a little bit, and we'll wrap up here in a minute, everybody. A few minutes on the quote that you put together. It looks as if these IBR 900 cradle points, there's some sort of a, is it a promotion, or is it a grant, or is it something that FirstNet is getting from the government? It is
a promotion. It's not a grant. It's a promotion that FirstNet put together to help you know, first responders out. So it's only available to a first responder agency. So it's not available to the, you know, the baseline user or anything like that. We put them in ambulances, fire trucks, and police cars, free of charge. You know, the most rural parts of New Jersey, they're getting great coverage. We're getting a lot of great feedback from them. You know, for all the different platforms that are in the police cars and ambulances, they work great. And I'm not just saying that. We had them in Reddington Township. We had some areas that we struggled, Verizon, FirstNet, with cell coverage, and these things stayed connected the entire time.
Right. Now, as far as the cost of the service, based on my research, it looks as if the monthly charges for the service are similar to Frontline. Is that right?
I mean, that's not where you're going to save the money. You're saving the money on the actual physical equipment, right? So the Verizon for data is probably going to be very close. You might save $1 or $2 with FirstNet. Worth $37 a month for any data device. You know, where you're really saving the money is $2,000 a router, you know, for smaller agencies. That's a lot of money to outfit every police car and every fire truck and every ambulance with if you have 10 cars, that becomes a lot of money.
Yeah.
But on top of that, we're going to give you $75 back per device. So on top of that, we're giving you even more of a discount.
Yep. So the last point, I just want to, because we have our finance people here, The service, the FirstNet cellular service, can that be compared in cost to standard cellular service, or is it necessarily more expensive?
I mean, I would have to see your Verizon bill to compare it. It's $37 a month. So I don't know what you pay. So, you know, some customers might be a little bit cheaper, some might be a little bit more. You know, I've seen really, the vast majority, they're like $1 more they pay.
Right. Okay, I don't have any other questions. Any other questions from the committee?
Brad, do you have any?
No, I mean, the cradles, the cradle point routers, that's one thing, but Joe also gave quite an extensive presentation on other FirstNet capabilities. Is this something that the committee's considering?
I'm sorry?
Or is the other capabilities of FirstNet, is this something that the committee's considering for implementation throughout all the first responders? Or is this just an informational?
Well, it's optionality that we have once the Wagner Tower is up, because that Tango service will be provided to us by county until the Wagner Tower is up. And then optionally, we decide if we want to pay for our own interop service. We can stay with Tango, or we can go to FirstNet.
Right. Okay. No. That's what that was.
Right?
That was
But the
question.
key to that is those dual band radios, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You're shaking your head, Guy.
No,
I asked if you had any questions.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So really, it's, you know, it's optionality.
Yep. Okay.
Vic, do you have any questions?
No, as long as there's no compatibility issues or additional costs.
Joe, our administrator, Nancy Malou, would like to ask questions.
Sure.
Hi, I'm just looking at the proposal that you gave us, and the $37 a month is on there, but there's a lot of other costs that are on there, and so they total $896 a month. So are these for different services? If we just got the routers, it's 37, but then you add in other services and it's 896?
I believe I quoted you for cell phones as well, didn't I?
Well,
throw
so
in-
it says,
no.
FirstNet unlimited plan for smartphones, that's the phones, that's 12. Then
Yep.
FirstNet, unlimited data plan for hotspots, that's the modems, that's not for 9. And then land mobile radio interop, that's 5. I don't know if that goes with the phones or the routers. And then AT&T enhanced PTT for 12 units. So do all the things that are 12 go with the phones, and the 9 is for the MDTs?
So the 9 are the MDTs.
So do we need those other things in order to make the MDTs work?
No. You could just do the cradle points in the cars and be done with it. We could wait on the cell phones if you want. That's really up to you. The quote that I have is $614 a month. And I have everything listed in there. I have the EPTT and the push to talk. So the EPTT LMR, you would need to pay that $7 a month to be able to have that LMR feature, the ROIT kit.
Okay, so it's $44 a month. The $5 and the $2 have to be included with the routers, is what you're saying?
No, not with the routers. The routers are totally separate. Those are just data lines, so they're $36.99, so those are separate. If you do cell phones and you want to have the interop on there, you have to pay for the EPTT LMR and the push to talk, so that's another $7 a month per line that you want. If you just want a basic phone, it's $39 a month, and it's, unlimited data, messaging.
Okay, so if we have phones now that they use with Tango, I guess, right? Then if we were just to go with the routers for $36.99, are they still available through this promotion? Or do you have to get the whole package?
No, you don't have, you can do one or the other. You don't have to get the phones. If you want to stay with your Verizon phones, you can do that. If you just want to do the routers, then that's fine also.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
and I believe the promotion goes to when, like August 1st, Joe?
You know what, they didn't give us an end date to it. You know, it's really when we run out of the 2,500 routers that we had. I don't get an update on it daily, but, you know, I would say probably over the summertime, we'll probably run out of them. You know, I kind of already put them aside for Long Hill Township. I mean, if you come up and tell me tomorrow that you're not in on it, I just put them back into the pool.
Excellent, thank you.
I actually had a quick question.
Go ahead.
I'm under the impression that the county was willing to subsidize the cost for Tango Tango. Is that the same situation here?
No. The Tango will be subsidized until the Wagner Tower is up,
Right.
right? And then after that, we're on our own if we want to have an interop over cell phone.
And so again, I'm confused by and Nancy just pointed out, I thought we were talking about the cradle points. That was the routers for the cars. But then, as Nancy pointed out, there's smartphones on here. Was this put together? Did we put this together or ask Joe to put it together for?
We didn't ask him. I don't know who asked him to put it together.
Yeah, this is what Chief Naga had, so it was pretty much indicative pricing. But I think, Joe, maybe the next step is if you can send the refresh quotes to Nancy, and we can, just go through those. Where's that coming from?
So would the refresh quotes be just for the cradle routers? Because I thought that was the most important thing that we were looking for.
I think so. I mean, it's my understanding. I mean, I don't know, like, that's what my understanding was, is that the routers are gonna replace the hotspots, and that was the most important part. So
Jetpack, yeah.
I was under the impression that we didn't need the phones because we got those phones for the Tango Tango. That was my understanding.
We just bought those, right?
I think so.
I think so,
Yes.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
So I think what we need is we'll need to kind of circle back with the chief and just come up with a final configuration and decide what we want to do.
And I mean, if that's it, if it's just these routers, then the
chief's
price is pretty good.
The chief's actually on.
Oh, good.
And one thing, I mean, I think once we talk to him tonight, but we pretty much know after talking to Joe how much everything costs. Hopefully we can move forward with the routers once you get the new paperwork.
I have a couple questions. Mr. Greco,
Yes.
have you spoken to anybody at the county regarding this to make sure it's compatible with their system?
As far as the cradle points?
No, it's FirstNet in general. Is that compatible with the county system?
To be honest with you, it doesn't have anything to do with the county. It's really just an application. Whatever LTE service you want, you just put another SIM card in that device, and I'd be happy, I told the chief that I'd be happy to test it with them,
So that you just answer my next question. So we haven't field tested any of this to make sure with the coverage areas for what you have now, what they have now compared to what FirstNet does?
We have not, no.
Okay. Do you have any understanding, to your knowledge, and you might not know the answer to this, are there any issues with the Verizon coverage area that we have currently, or have had basically forever?
I don't know of any coverage issues that you have in the town.
Okay.
with
And
Verizon.
what is your understanding of the reason why you were approached to switch to FirstNet?
I think FirstNet.
Hold on a second, we got feedback from somewhere. Hold on, sir.
Okay.
Oh, did you hear my question?
I did.
Okay, so there's no feedback, you can answer now, I'm sorry. There it goes. Sorry, go ahead.
So FirstNet's network is built for first responders, so that's the priority and the preemption for your first responders, and all of the other, the deployables, the promotions for the first responders. That's the benefit of moving to FirstNet, is being on a prioritized network. When something bad happens, you will need a network that is prioritized. So that's really your benefit of moving to FirstNet. It's really not, listen, I understand there has to be a balance of money also, and if you're happy with Verizon, you know, and you want to stay with Verizon, we can still do the routers. You know, I'm happy to do that, and, you know, we'll put you guys on the list. You know, obviously, I'd be happier if you moved everything over, because I think that there is a benefit for Long Hill Township to be on FirstNet. You know, there's quite a few other townships in the state that are doing this. Montville, you know, they just signed an agreement that they're going to move all their phones over. So, you know,
That was actually, so you answered my question before I asked them. Is there a list of other towns that, I know you said Readington used them, aside from Readington where you came from, are there other towns that we can contact to see what their experience is like?
So Newark Police Department, you know, I know it's Essex County, I know it's not really apples to apples, but Newark Police Department does a one-to-one program where every officer gets a cellular phone. So when they get out of the academy, they get a badge, a gun, and a phone.
Got it.
New York City, 40,000 officers, they get a badge, a gun, and a phone when they come out of the academy, all FirstNet phones. To give it more localized, I would say more or less 90% of Hunterdon County. So you got Readington Township, Clinton Township, Clinton Borough, Holland Township, Frenchtown. We have some state police. We don't have all of the state police. Montville, Fairfield. I'm just going off kind of my head.
Yeah, what you know off the top of your head is good enough.
Milburn, you know what I mean? I could go down the list of, I've only been with FirstNet since December, so obviously there's a whole lot more customers, and I actually encourage you to go to those customers and ask them about it. I'm sure, you know, the chief has already done that, I'm sure.
And I think my last question is, I'm not a tech person. Is it fair to say the Cradle Point routers are compatible with basically any brand of laptop they use for the MDTs?
Yeah, so the Cradle Point is just your Wi-Fi access, right? You know, so that's your internet for the car. So I always suggest them hardwiring the laptops in with the Cradle Point. Obviously, that's the best connection in the car, but then, you know, what makes this device better than a hotspot that they have in the car currently, you have an exterior antenna on the vehicle now. So, and these are powered. With a hotspot, you can connect, I think, 5 to 10 devices to. This Cradle Point, you can hook up to 60 devices to. So now you become a mobile command center. With one police car, you become a mobile command center. You know, if you have a fire in town, your fire engines, your fire apparatus, whoever wants to connect to that router can do that. You know, obviously with the, you know, they'll have to have a Wi-Fi access point through the police department, but just think about the capabilities of that router. You know, at one router, at one scene, you can connect all those people to it. And even if you don't have cell coverage in that area, you're probably going to have better coverage with that router.
Now, do you guys, as part of the deal, do you hardwire these into the car, or we have to do that?
No, their installation and everything is included.
Okay, good. And then what's the warranty for the Cradle Point?
So the NetCloud Manager is through Cradle Point, and you get NetCloud Manager. That's a cost that, you know, I think I talked to the chief about. That's kind of a cost through Cradle Point that they charge. And it's roughly about $180 per device per year to have the NetCloud Manager. You know, some departments have chosen not to do that. I don't suggest it, because if they push out an update for the device, if they have, you know, there's many different softwares out there that they grab the GPS off of that router. So your dispatch center, and I don't know if Morris County Dispatch is actually using that, but they use a function where WTH will pull that information off of that router, and now they put it onto a screen, so now they can see where every patrol car is or every fire engine is in the county.
I believe the county does that already, as far as I know.
And I think they would need that access to that router to do that.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Joe, one last question. So of those municipalities that you mentioned, are any of them doing cellular communications only, or are they all hybrid radio cellular?
I'm not sure what you mean about the hybrid. You mean the interop?
Right.
Okay, so Hunterdon County does the interop, so they offer it to any agency that wants to use it. So Hunterdon County paid for the interoperability, right? So they paid for the back end of it, which was, you know, a few $1,000s, because it's roughly $5,000 per channel to do it. And then when any agency wants to go onto that, they just pay for the $7 a month. You know, the 5 for the LMR and then the 2 for, so I would say it's probably 90% of the agencies that are on FirstNet use the LMR as well.
And when you say use the LMR, they're running both radio frequency and...
Right, yeah, that's what I mean, the interop.
Yeah,
I don't mean
okay.
to...
All right, yeah, that was my question. So, I mean, Brendan, you understand what that means, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea of running hybrid with county and potentially FirstNet when the tower comes up, it's an option.
Yeah, as an option,
Yeah.
sure.
Joe, this has been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
You know, there's one thing,
Pleasure.
just to, because the cradles, the cradle points are, when all said and done, they're a safety issue. And so the chief's on, if we wanted to talk to him, and, you know, with Joe being here and all the parties right here, if we wanted to bring this to some kind of conclusion, especially around the cradle points, because the jetpacks have been dying, MDTs have been going down, and it's all about officer communication. If they're in a bad cell phone reception area, a bad radio reception area, and then this happens, you get this kind of constellation of adverse events happen, and it's a safety issue for the officer and ultimately for the residents. And so, with the chief being on and everybody being here in this room, maybe we can come to some conclusion on it.
I think we still need to see some numbers. That's the big, I mean, Mr. Greco was very thorough in his presentation. I don't have any additional questions.
I mean, the numbers are, the numbers are basically here, and with Nancy's question around the cradle point.
I think he's gonna update the quote, and we gotta field test it too.
I don't know if it needs to be field tested though, Matt.
Go ahead.
Can I? So Joe, if I did the math right, we'd be looking at just about $4,000 per year for the data plan. And then if you add in the Net Cloud Manager, that's an extra, I believe, $1,600. So the total cost per year is $5,600. Are there any other costs that we're missing?
I'm not doing, I didn't do the math, so, you know, if you're saying that's what you did the math, the numbers that I gave you, the 3699 times 9 vehicles is roughly, what, 30?
So 37 times 9 times 12, right?
So $332 a month for 9 vehicles times 12 months equals $39.94. Yeah.
Right, so $4,000, and then you said
And the-
$180 per device,
Yep.
and that's per year, so 180 times 9 is 1620.
Correct.
So the total cost is $5,600 for 9 routers
Sure.
installed
Installed.
per year
With antennas.
with the Net Cloud Manager, which I'm not entirely sure what that was, but it sounded important.
Net Cloud Manager, and, you know, I'd love to show it to, you know, certainly the chief and any of you, you know, I can certainly show it to you at some point, what the Net Cloud Manager does.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that would be important. We don't need to commit to that right now, but it's, I have a proposal to upgrade this too. So, but it's $39.96, it's $4,000 a year for the routers. I mean, I'm not sure what additional information you would need. I know that we pay about $5,900 for the Verizon service for the hotspots now. So this
It's actually
is a little less,
slightly
actually.
cheaper.
Yeah, my concern is we just came out of an issue where we had alleged major communication issues. We were unknown to us for years, and we corrected them with Tango Tango. Now, I want to make sure before we switch anything that it's field tested is going to work. I don't want to revert back to a problem we had 5 months ago. Hey, if this works and the coverage area is great, I have no problem with it, but I don't think we just sign up a contract today without testing. I mean, for example, probably about 20 years ago, I went for a promotion for, actually it was an AT&T phone. And I got the phone, and I brought it home, and the whole area where I lived was a dead spot. I mean, clearly I upgraded the system area since then. But so I took it back and went back to Verizon, because I want to be able to talk on the phone and do what I need to where I live. So before, I mean, my opinion is before we do anything, I like to see the field tested to make sure it works in this town. And if it does, great, and if it doesn't, why would we want to switch to something that doesn't work to revert to a problem that we just corrected a couple months ago? And that's, I said, if we can field test, and Mr. Greco said if you have no problem doing that, it'd probably be the prudent thing to do.
But isn't that just the coverage maps that Verizon and FirstNet have, and there's overlap? If not, they're actually better from what I'm told.
I want to make sure they're either equal or better. As long as they're equal or better, I have no problem with it, but I don't want to go backwards to something that doesn't work, and then we're going to be back here, say, come September, oh, listen, we have dead spots on River Road, we have dead spots in Myersville. I don't want that, because we just corrected that problem. That's my concern.
Joe, how quickly could we do that?
I will send you phones, as soon as, probably next week, I'll have some phones in your hands. Obviously I'll send them to the police department. They can give them to whoever they want to give them to. You can keep them for 30 days. I can give you a router. The only difference is, and I'm going to get a little bit technical, is that the device that I'm going to give you is the same device that we will install in your car, but it's contained in a Pelican briefcase, right? So it doesn't have a static IP address. So the static IP is needed for like your e-ticketing or for your CAD system.
Yeah, we don't have e-ticketing right now, so that doesn't matter.
All right, so, but your CAD system probably will require it, so you won't be able to run the CAD system off of that. What I tell departments to do when they test it, I say, here's the cradle point, drive it around, try and go on Netflix, try and go on YouTube. Obviously, I don't want your officers getting that in their head, but you're never going to use that type of bandwidth on a regular basis, right? You're never going to be on YouTube streaming videos constantly. But if you can do that, and, listen, the officers know the areas in town where they have trouble coverage.
Absolutely.
Just take them out to those areas and test it. I'm sure they know even, River Road, like you were just saying. We in Reddington, we know exactly where to go if there's a coverage issue. You just drive out there and say, okay, let's see if it works. Listen, I'm happy to do it. I'd rather you be happy with FirstNet than calling me back 6 months from now and, calling me up on the podium.
So is there any objection here to getting the test units and doing this as soon as possible?
I think it's a good idea, Mr. Greco.
Yeah. Joe, why don't we do that, and let's figure this out, and, we'd all like to move quickly, but we'd all like to make sure that it's going to work correctly.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that. Happy to do that.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Greco.
Joe, thank you very much. There's a lot of
Thank you
stuff
for your
here.
time.
Appreciate you fielding all the questions from us. We think you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
My pleasure. Have a good night.
You too.
You too.
All right. Hang on, let's see. Megan, do you have to disconnect that to get the feedback issues? Once he's off, okay, so let's hang on, let's turn down the mics and we'll move along here.
Megan, you're getting a workout tonight, huh? First, we really want to do that.
All right, so all right, Megan, you ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have Resolution 22-136, the 2022 budget to be read by title only at the public hearing. An explanation needed on that or not?
It's pretty self-explanatory. It just allows us, rather than reading the entire budget, to read it by title.
Ah, all right. Then we have,
So
go ahead.
that should be adopted.
So one motion for that, and then we'll do the budget. Okay.
Oh, okay. So, can I have a motion to adopt Resolution 22-136?
So moved.
Second?
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. All right, so then we go to 22-137, adoption of the 2022 budget. So we have Randy, if anybody has any questions. We have our auditors here.
Randy was going to give a little
Oh,
overview.
yeah, we have our
and the
CFO,
auditor
Randy
is here
Barr.
as well.
Randy can come on up and give us some brief overview. Just got to turn that on again.
Thank you. I just want to give you a brief overview of the 2022 municipal budget. The total budget this year is $15,999,000, $16 million for all practical purposes. Amount to be raised by taxation is $10,288,297. The 2022 average assessed value for a home in Long Hill is $560,327. That is up from last year. Last year's average was $506,921. Now, with municipal taxes, the average home last year paid $3,061 and change. This year, the average home will pay $3,132 and change. Now, remember, this is only the municipal taxes because we have no authority over the other taxes until those budgets are set and certified by the County Board of Taxation. So that's just over about $70 a month, $70 a year. Increase less than $6 a month or less than a Starbucks coffee, I think. I don't drink coffee, so I don't know how much a Starbucks coffee is. Just some information, we had a lot of concerns over the past couple of years with budgets. The tax collection rate, which is unaudited as of right now, the auditors are finishing up writing the audit now, is 99.39%. Okay, so we collected that much of the tax levy in 2021 compared to 2020 at 98.79%. So your tax collector did a fabulous job in getting the word out there, assisting people, and trying to make it as easy as possible during a very difficult time to pay taxes. So I commend the tax collector on that. She did a fabulous work. That's all that I really have as an overview of the budget. This budget does incorporate an extensive capital program and addresses some areas of I don't want to say concern, but areas of improving public safety budgets and capital purchases. We have increased area in the budget for the various public safeties mechanisms, including fire departments, vehicle maintenance for those things, the police department, and capital improvements. Just to highlight some, as you know, we already passed the ordinance for doing fire engines. We are giving the rescue squad the second half of their ambulance purchase this year, and we have other equipment and so forth for the fire departments and police operations. We also have some extensive recreation improvements that are badly needed, including one that you'll be having a public hearing on tonight, the Myersville lights that unfortunately with the last storm had major problems. So with that, I'll entertain any questions from the committee, and I'll be here for the public hearing also.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks.
Well, who is he?
Go ahead.
Who's going to explain what the cap bank is? Because that's going to come up.
I think any one of us can.
All right, so we can wait. I think, Mayor, I think I'm interrupting your
Oh, go ahead.
mojo here.
No, go ahead.
No, do you want to call up?
Oh, okay. All right, so now we'll open up the public hearing, or do you want me to bring up Ray and Company?
Well, what should happen first? Should Ray speak first, or how do
Yeah,
you
might as
wanna-
well let Ray speak first, because that might answer some questions people have.
Okay, I didn't really prepare anything, but if you want me to answer your question on the cap bank.
Go ahead if you want to.
It
Go
comes,
ahead.
it's going to come up, so I
Okay.
just cut
Well,
right to
so
the
let's
chase
start-
on
yeah.
that one.
So the cap bank is a poorly worded ordinance that the state allows every municipality to do. And what you're allowed to do is increase taxes 2.5% in a year. The cap bank allows you to go up to 3.5%. The intention of that is it used to actually be 5% was the cap bank. And before the bank was established, bank, again, poor terminology, because a town could go up to 5%, they would automatically go up to 5% if they knew they had an expenditure in future years that they were going to need the money in the current year for future years. So they would increase taxes for no reason and then further increase them in future years when they needed some additional funds. So what this does is it allows you not to have an increase, but reserve that increase for future years if necessary. So it gives you more flexibility should something sudden come up, like a storm, where you have to have the ability to spend the money, right? Once you adopt the budget, that's it. You don't have the authority after that to increase the budget. That's the budget. So if you need the future year's expenditures and you don't have the bank or the flexibility to do that in future years, I think one of the biggest things that comes to my mind, especially right now, is garbage contracts, especially if, I don't know, well, certain towns, garbage contracts increase almost 100% in one contract. So you have a 5-year contract at, say, $500,000. Your next 5-year contract might be $1 million. And so you may not need to have an increase in 2022 for that contract, but you might need it in 2023 when that contract comes due. And so it gives you just greater flexibility down the road without having to increase taxes in the current year. There is no bank. It's not a real bank. It's not like you're putting those monies somewhere. You're not taxing people, putting it in the bank and just saving it for later. It's a metaphorical bank on a tax levy. So it's not like you're taxing, you're doing the opposite of that. The cap bank allows you not to tax people and put it in the bank for future years. It allows you to not tax them.
Okay, and so I'm going to cut to the end of this movie, and I don't know when the cap bank started, but I can speak for the last 13 budgets. Long Hill Township, the municipal side, has never so much as spent a penny out of this fake bank as you.
I think this year you're close to $200,000 under the bank.
So, I know it gets confusing. People.
It is a
see this-
very, very complicated. It's one of the most complicated parts of being an RMA, is to first learn that, and then second, learn how to explain it, because it is one of the more complicated parts of a municipal budget, and working through that, and there being banks and things like that. But yes.
I just want the residents to be comfortable with the idea that we don't, on the municipal side, use it.
Right.
Mayor, can I just ask, can you talk about the appropriations cap versus the tax levy cap? Because that's another point of confusion for people.
Okay, sure. So everything I just explained is the appropriation cap. The tax levy cap is more recent and even, I would say, probably more confusing. But it's essentially a soft cap. So, and it's specifically on your tax levy, and there are certain items that are excluded from that cap, such as capital debt and pension costs. And not just pension costs, there's a calculation. Certain pension costs are included and certain pension costs are not. So it gets even more confusing there. But so it is essentially a soft cap of 2% with those exclusions added back in. So if your entire operating budget is going up 2%, but then you include things like pension, capital items, and debt service, there's a few other exceptions as well, they can be added to that 2%. So you can go to a 2% increase. The highest I've ever had in 1 year was an 11% increase on a tax levy, just due to the fact that it is a soft cap and there are certain items, including capital and debt service, that are not included in that tax levy cap. The appropriation cap that I talked about before is a hard cap. Once you do all the calculations, you get to 3.5%. That's it. You can't do more than that on those appropriations. The levy cap is a soft cap. There's exclusions to it that would allow you to increase the tax more than 2%.
Got it. And residents that are watching, and Nicole put this in the newspaper, there will be an exam sent out to every taxpayer in town.
So there is an exam, it's the Registered Municipal Accountants exam, and it has a pass rate of about 0.5%.
I think the moral of this story is we don't use the cap bank, and to Randy's point, I like the way you did a great job of explaining what it is. It's $70 or $6 a month Starbucks coffee is really what it costs the taxpayer on this particular budget.
All right, so now I have to open up, motion to open up the meeting for a public hearing on the budget, correct, Megan?
Correct.
Oh, we can just do it, okay, so we
Just open up the public hearing.
the public hearing regarding the budget only. Anybody have any questions about the budget? We'll have our professionals here. Again, they're limited to 3 minutes.
Charles Aronowitz, Millington. I don't have a medical, physical question, but one topic close to my heart is the American Rescue Plan, that we have $447,000. If we're a taxpayer, how does one find out where those monies are going to be spent in this year's budget as a common taxpayer of this town?
Is that your only question? Because it is, we'll have Randy answer it, I assume. Unless you have another question, then we'll answer them all at once.
Whatever you prefer, Mayor, you're God, okay?
Thank you, my son. Randy, can you answer that question, please?
I certainly can. The introduced budget is on the website, so anybody can look at it. The ARP money is on page 15 and covers police salary and wages.
Thank you. That's obviously permitted use through the government, correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Randy.
And Mayor, if I can, because I had said at a previous meeting that we were applying it towards capital, and correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, by allowing us to use that for salary and wages, we were able to take that money and use it for capital.
So basically just moved it from salary and wages
Yes.
to capital, so it's a switch.
Right.
Okay.
A follow-up question. Please explain how we flip from salary and wages to capital. I don't quite understand that.
It's an accounting mechanism. Randy, if you want to talk about it, please do.
Sure. The ARP money cannot be used for tax reduction. Bottom line, period, cannot do it. So, in fact, I just got a email this week reminding municipalities that the federal government is encouraging to use the money for affordable housing. I think this committee is already doing a good job on working with that with several developers, and they have that, I think, well under control. And public safety and water and sewer improvements, we don't own either of those utilities. So, and specifically for public safety, they said, I think the line was keeping our communities safe. What more than police salary and wages? This allows the budget monies to be freed up. We use them for one-time capital costs. And there are some, if you will, equipment within the budget that is one-time costs. So by using the ARP money in a roundabout way for one-time costs, it won't be a negative effect to the taxpayers in future years.
Thank you, Randy.
Okay, we used it for one-time capital costs. Can someone explain what those one-time capital costs of $447,000 are for? And what are we going to do in the future when we get our $447,000 for next year? Thank you for all your time.
Thank you. Randy, can you answer that? Well, obviously, next year, we have no idea we're doing it for next year. That's a next year issue, but at least you can probably answer this year's
Yeah,
question.
as far as next year, that's a concern, obviously, for next year budget and when we get into discussions of what we want to do. There are multiple things in this year's budget, capital budget. If I can, and I think everybody has a copy of it. Oh, my agenda's right on top here. It says it right in the capital ordinance. That's being introduced later tonight. Okay, Megan, help me out. What page is that? I got it. So the budget does include road repairs and resurfacing on about 10 roads. It's includes stormwater structure, catch basins, and milling and overlay. Police equipment to include handguns, facility improvements, traffic calming devices, ballistic bullet shields, and e-ticket system. Equipment and apparatus for Sterling and Millington Fire Departments and Long Hill EMS to include turnout gear, hose replacement, communications equipment, and replacement ambulance. Recreation equipment and improvements to investigate for repairs at Spillgate at Sterling Lake, improvements to Myersville Playground, and Cantor Park cameras. Public works equipment and improvements to include zero-turn riding mower, backhoe with hydraulic thumb attachments, snowplow replacements, tools for mechanic, open trailer, street sweeper, and styrofoam recycling machine. Improvements and repairs to town hall complex. Document digitization of records.
What page is that on?
Fourth page, third page? It's ordinance 491-22, being introduced later tonight.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Randy. Anybody else in the public have any questions for the accounting professionals while we have them here? Megan, anyone on Zoom?
If anyone would like to make a public comment in regards to the budget, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, so we close this portion of the meeting, and we're going to make a resolution to approve the budget.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
before
go ahead.
you do, I just wanted to take, I mean, it's going to sound a bit pretentious, it's a bit of a victory lap. The last 13 years' budget, we've averaged about 1.4% per year, and that's well below the 2% cap. And what's even more notable about that, I think we get 8 or 9% of our property tax or our tax levy from business ratables, which is low relative to the surrounding communities. So that's quite an achievement for Long Hill Township. Credit to this committee and past committees. I would also point out, back in 2010, Long Hill Township had roughly $20 million in debt. $20 million in debt. That was between the municipal debt and wastewater. Today, our debt is zero. We are one of about 20 towns statewide that are debt-free, or that is debt-free. And there are 565 municipalities in the state of New Jersey. So it sounds like a bit of an infomercial for this committee and past committees, but I think the taxpayer deserves to know that. You have your lives. You're not going to pay attention to this on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure Ray can attest to this, that Long Hill Township is in very, very good financial shape.
All right, so thank you. We'll close this portion of the meeting and then like a motion to what? Approve the
Resolution.
resolution.
22-137.
22-137, which is the 2022 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchian?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. All right, Megan, what's next? Things are all jumbled up today.
Capital Ordinance
Capital ordinance.
491-22.
Thank you.
This is providing various improvements in
Thank
and
you,
by the
gentlemen.
town.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Randy.
It goes on to the next page.
In and by the Township of Long Hill and the County of Morris, New Jersey, and appropriating $2,550,816 therefore from various funds of the township. This is what Randy was referring to
Oh, okay.
before.
So can I have a motion to approve ordinance 491-22 for, was that a first introduction?
So moved.
Second?
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes, and this will be on for a public hearing on June 8th, correct?
Correct.
All right, so next we have, what's next, 492-22?
Correct.
Oh, concerning the parking regulation on Long Hill Road. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Bill Coughlin brought it to our attention, and it's related to the parking on Long Hill Road over across by the Millington Savings Bank and the post office with regard to the new brewery that's going to be in there. And they proposed, add 1 hour parking. Honestly, I'd add 2 hours, but unless the committee has an objection, I'd like to make it 2 hours. I don't want to limit the customers going in and out of there. Look, people come, we know for the most part, the police officers aren't out there chalking tires and being like hawks trying to ticket somebody as soon as they're a minute over. They don't do that here. However, people from out of town might not know that. So if somebody comes in from Bernardsville or Basking Ridge and wants to sit down and enjoy themselves and talk to some friends, they're like, oh, I got to move my car, I got to run out. So I don't care if we increase the time to 2 hours or 3 hours for all that matter, because I think it's only going to help the patrons and the business itself. But that's up to you guys.
I think 2 hours makes more sense.
Any objection? Okay.
Would
so I-
Mr. Kaufman have any objection to that?
I highly doubt it.
Right.
And he's not here, so he only wanted an hour, so I don't think he's going to care about
Yeah,
two.
2.
Yeah.
And if they want to do more than 2 hours, I think what we could do is post Brendan's address. That's right down the road.
Yeah.
And you've got a big,
Valet
you've
parking.
got a big driveway.
There's no reason for it not to be 2. I mean, the only thing you want to discourage is people parking there and taking the train out of
Leaving
town.
their car all day.
Or parking overnight.
So I guess we'll, resolution to, was it
It's ordinance.
492-22.
492-22, except we'll just change it to 2 hours instead of 1 hour
Right.
between what's, whatever,
4 PM and 8 AM
yeah, on the weekends.
and holidays.
And holidays.
So moved with the noted changes.
Second.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
And Mayor Dorsey?
Yes, this will be on for a public hearing on Wednesday, the June 22nd. So if
Correct.
Mr. Kaufman or the brewery wants to come in, they can talk about it more, or anybody else for that matter. Then we have 493-22, introduction, we discussed it at last meeting about trying to clean up the ordinance of campaign signs where, to make it clear for everybody in on specific terms. So, Jack, you just want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, what I did was I added a new section saying, first of all, that I added to paragraph 2, the following temporary signs are permitted in all areas on any private lot or in the right-of-way. I added to that paragraph, outside the curb or paved portion of the roadway with the abutting property owner's permission. And then I added a new section, I, paragraph I, saying the political signs shall not be permitted on any of the following township properties or in the right-of-way abutting such municipal properties: Municipal Center, Millington Schoolhouse, Community Center, Public Works Department, and First Aid Squad.
Put the police on there or not? Not that it matters from a dead end, but,
Yep.
yeah, put the police department on there.
Add the police.
And
Even though they're private, I think you should still add Sterling and Millington Fire Companies because people associate them with the town. I
Yeah,
don't
we
think
can
they
add
have-
them.
Yeah,
They're on
First
private
Aid
property,
Squad,
but-
yeah, First Aid's on there.
First on
Because we own that, but both fire companies?
Yes. That's fair. They have their own rules in place, but people associate them with the town.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And Jack, I don't know what legally can be done, but what about Myersville Circle, the Carlton Road
inside?
Triangle?
We can add-
Traditionally, we've not allowed signs there, but I didn't know if we were allowed to. And I would suggest, I know there was some debate about this, Cantor Park.
Yeah, that one I wasn't sure because there was some debate about it. I thought the consensus was it was okay, but it's up to you all.
I mean, because of.
You mean in the park or?
No, even
Along-
just that whole
along Valley
stretch.
Road.
The whole stretch.
Only because it's
Went out of respect.
it's in honor of I mean,
Cantor.
I would, yeah.
Yeah,
and honestly, rarely have they ever
Yeah,
been
I've
there.
never been there, yeah.
So it's almost like we're forbidding something that's never happened anyway, but I'd rather at least, to be clear, that, we want it to be clear to anybody.
Yes.
Yep.
Make it in plain English. That's, do you guys have any objection to that?
now, Mr. Sandow had a good idea, that to just say all P-zone properties.
Who knows
but-
what a P-zone is?
But the average person's not gonna track down all the P-zones on the zoning map, so I thought, after speaking to several people, let's list them.
Yes.
And describe them.
Okay.
So now we're gonna prohibit campaign signs in front of, including in the right-of-way, Municipal Center, Millington Schoolhouse, Community Center, Public Works, First Aid, Police Department, both fire companies, can't read my own writing, Cantor Park, and there was one other. Oh, Millington Circle.
Well, no,
Myersville Circle, I mean.
And the triangle on Carlton
Told you I
Road.
couldn't read my
That's-
own writing.
Yeah, and the triangle on Carlton Road, that's a
Because
sightline issue.
it's a sight line, but the people who maintain that are on Carlton, and they just don't
Yes.
like that.
They do a lot
Yeah.
of planting, same in Myersville Circle.
So you can introduce tonight, and I will submit the ordinance as revised to Megan in the morning.
Sounds good. All right, so motion to adopt the revised ordinance tonight, not adopt it, but
Introduce.
introduce
Second.
it tonight.
Second. Or would
No,
you?
that's fine.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry. Committeeman Lavender.
Yes.
Committeeman Bray.
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia.
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
Yes, and that'll be on for public hearing on the 22nd of June. Then we have ordinance 488-22. It's a second reading adoption. We're amending that to include the establishment of the position of a deputy registrar. So can I have a motion to
We're gonna-
amend?
Yeah, we're going to amend and then carry the public hearing to the June 22nd meeting.
That's fair. Okay, so we'll amend it, we'll carry it. So a motion to amend and then carry the meeting to June 22nd.
And you will publish about the amendment, right?
Correct.
And it-
So moved.
Second.
Sorry.
Committeeman Ray.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Committeeman Lavender.
Yes.
Committeeman Ray.
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia.
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
Yes. Okay, now we have ordinance 489-22, second reading for adoption. It's about the cap bank that Mr. Sarinelli graciously talked to us about. So we have a public we have a motion, to open a public hearing on this?
Yes.
Yes, you can
Okay, so actually we can open a public hearing to, with the motion or just do it?
just open the public hearing for ordinance
Yep.
489-22.
There you go, as she said. Does anybody from the public have any questions, comments about the cap bank? Anybody online?
If anyone online would like to make a public comment in reference to 489-22, please do so now. Please raise your hand. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to close that portion of the meeting and a motion to adopt ordinance 489-22.
So moved, because I love the cap bank.
Second. I love it more.
Committeeman Lavender.
Yes.
Committeeman Ray.
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia.
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
Yes. Next one, here we go. 490-22, second reading and adoption of authorizing the purchase and installation of the lights at Myersville Field. I believe if we adopt that tonight, they can at least start the project and hopefully have those lights up and running sometime early September, correct? If all goes
That's the
well.
plan.
So for the fall season, we can use it. So I'd like to open anybody from the public have any questions, comments about the Myersville lighting project? Anybody online?
Anyone online would like to make a public comment in reference to 490-22, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing none, I'd like to close that portion of the meeting and make a motion to adopt ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Lavender.
Yes.
Committeeman Ray.
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia.
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
Yes. All right, now we have the consent agenda resolutions. Does anybody want to pull or discuss anything? Brenda, you probably have to abstain from 144.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't?
No, I
That's
don't think
fine.
so. No.
No,
Okay.
Sterling.
Oh, no, it's actually, it's
It's
Millington.
Millington.
But I
Yeah.
don't. I don't usually abstain from those. Or,
Yeah, that's
well,
fine.
if
I
you
don't
want,
think it's,
but-
no, you don't have to. I mean, I just mentioned it that Lena Golden, like to continue the family tradition of joining Millington Fire Company. Her husband Patrick's a longtime member, and her son Bjorn, who's actually graduating high school in a couple of weeks, is also a member. So Lena, good luck to you, and we look forward to seeing you in uniform by the end of the summer. So, a motion to approve Resolution 22-138 to 144.
So moved.
Second.
You're getting a buzzer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchian?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. All right, liaison reports. Brandon, I'll start with you today.
No report.
Thank you. Guy, let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll be brief. Nancy and Jack, I briefly mentioned this to you. The Shade Tree Commission has been working on the beautification of Valley Road for some time. They asked if we could reach out to the county, see what we can or can't do. I know there are some challenges regarding sightlines, et cetera, and the county sometimes objects. It was pointed out that if you go through New Providence, there are some big old trees there. I don't know if the laws have changed. Well, one, New Providence is not Morris County, but I don't know if today they'd be able to plant those trees along a county road like that. But perhaps just discuss it with the county, see what we can do. They also asked if we could look into the possibility of funding trees on the property with the permission of the private property owners, IMA as an example. I don't know if we have a funding mechanism in place. That should have been discussed back in October, November, December. I did explain that. But at least file it away in the back of your head. I think it is it's a good idea. Valley Road could use some beautification along there with the permission of the private property owners. So let's just file that in our heads. But something that we've talked about many times, enforcement of the tree ordinance. We have a relatively tree ordinance light relative to towns in the surrounding area. There's concern that we're not necessarily enforcing it. The real challenge is, as it was explained to me, the same tree companies that work in Chatham Township or Chatham Borough work in Long Hill. They wouldn't think for a second to go and cut down a tree in Chatham Township or Chatham Borough without making sure that the registration or permit was in place. In Long Hill, it is not a concern to them, so they act first, and then the enforcement kind of confirms that they did not need to be concerned. So I really want to focus on that.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Something you might want to consider for the ordinance, to change the ordinance, is create a business registration for the tree companies, and then if there's a violation, you fine the company. Right now, the way our ordinance stands, the violation goes to the homeowner. So if you think the real issue is with the tree companies, then maybe you want to change your ordinance and the violation would go to the tree company rather than to the homeowner, and you'd have to have a registration.
I'll ask the obvious question, is that allowed?
Well, I think we could just add the contractor to the tree ordinance rather than having a business registration, I think.
But I mean, how do we notify them?
Well, I think tree companies know a lot of towns have tree ordinances, and if they, come into a town, they should check. It's just like a construction.
The challenge here is, it is my understanding, and I have no reason to doubt it, the same tree company that does work in Chatham Township does not cross the line there, but crosses the line in Long Hill because they know there is no consequence here.
I know pretty sure Chatham Township ordinance has both on there, because I've dealt with cases where the homeowner and the tree company is fined very heavily, and they're all registered too. I know that for a fact, that Chatham Township, they make them all register.
Well, we can make them register.
Yeah.
If you want to add another
The tree companies,
level
so if you
of-
want to just take a look at the Chatham Township ordinance's guidance, I would say to contact the administrator over there, but they don't have an administrator
Oh,
right
it's
now.
online.
Oh,
Every
so-
ordinance is online now.
Yeah.
Right, and
And
we're
the-
not trying to make
and
it
the
onerous
other-
on the homeowner. That's why our ordinance is much, much more benign than, say, Chatham, either of the Chathams or any town, frankly, that I'm aware of. We kept it benign. So we're not trying to hurt the property owner, but we do want the tree companies to honor what's on our books, and they're not doing it.
Well, and I think that
They don't have to, you're right, they don't have to.
what I-
So do we want to require the tree companies to register?
That's a start, I think that's how you can.
And then make them liable?
Yes.
You want to take both steps? That's fine, I'm just asking a question.
Yes.
well, and I think something else, one of the biggest problems that I've heard is when they clear cut lots. And I don't think that we have a prohibition, specific prohibition
not.
about clear cutting lots.
We do
And so
not.
you might want to add that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I was looking at that too.
Are we doing that as part of this ordinance?
You know I'm in favor of that.
I mean, how do we define clear cut? Is it every tree? Is
I
it?
guess you take down
Five
the,
trees.
what
Right.
is it, like 80% of the trees on a lot, or?
That's I don't take a position, but that's a much bigger question
It is, yeah,
than
and we've talked
than
about
what we
it.
discussed so far.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're getting back to the philosophy of the tree ordinance again, and you're welcome to visit it at any time, but
Geez, I've been trying for that for 13 years, and there you are using facts against me. That's
Yeah.
not fair.
I mean, that's up to you. You know, that's a policy decision.
Brendan's right. I mean, that's so vague as to,
Yeah, yeah, once we figure out how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, then we'll go and we'll solve that one.
12. Everyone knows that.
okay, so I'll have an ordinance for the next meeting requiring tree companies to register and also making them liable to a fine if they don't register for a particular property that they're going to be.
I think that's a
working
big step in the right direction.
on. Got it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's it.
Anything else from your report? All right, Scott.
All right, recreation. So we have some things that expire coming May 31st. So first, summer rec camp, grades K through 6. Registration closes May 31st. So that's coming up. That's for Long Hill students in grade K through 6. It's going to be held at Central School Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. That's summer rec camp for grade school. Also, Little Explorers preschool camp. That's open to Long Hill residents through May 31st, effective June 1st, so you can register. That's held at Millington All Saints Parish Hall. More information on that on Community Pass. That's for ages 3 through 5, Little Explorers preschool camp. Next, early bird pricing for Sterling Lake. The memberships end May 31st. You can register now and get reduced pricing until the end of May. It's on Community Pass. And speaking of Sterling Lake, it opens for members on Saturday, May 28th. The lake will be open for members Saturday, Sunday, and Monday from 11 to 5 daily. Next, we have Memorial Day on May 30th, Monday. The parade will begin in the corner of Mercer Street and Main and continue north to Central School to the lawn for a ceremony. And after the ceremony, all are invited back to the Sterling Firehouse for hot dogs. Is that still true?
Yes.
That is true. Next, Sterling Lake Dance for Long Hill students in grade 5 through 7, Friday, June 3rd, 7:30 to 9. That's a $5 fee, and you need a signed permission slip, and we need chaperones in order for the event to run. Contact the rec office. Next, the Red Cross CPR AED class, Wednesday, June 15th, 6 to 9. If you need that, it's at the Long Hill First Aid Building. The instructor is Lisa Scanlon, $32 per person, and you get a 2-year certificate upon completion. You register for that on Community Pass. The Spring Fever Photography Contest is ongoing through June 30th. Entries will be on display near the Rec Department. And the Summer Concert Series, they added a 10th band this summer, and they're going to celebrate National Night Out on August 2nd with that. So thank you to the Watchung Hills Municipal Alliance for sponsoring that. Lastly, back to Sterling Lake, we still need lifeguards, and we still have some positions open with Summer Rec Camp. Please contact the Rec Department if you're interested in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Vic, anything?
I do. The police liaison report for May 25th, 2022 is as follows. Self-initiated activity and calls for service year-to-date, 8,067. School activity year-to-date, 1,008. Motor vehicle stops year-to-date, 634. Motor vehicle crashes year-to-date, 77. Community policing and proactive residential radar posts, 665. Arrest incidents year-to-date are 11. And actual subjects, both adult and juvenile, that were arrested are 12. Major incidents, there are none to report. Community policing, none. And that concludes my police liaison report. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. All right, from the DPW first, from the first aid squad, they wanted to thank the DPW for striping and lining the parking lot. They were very pleased, and they got, when the people came to work their shifts and parked, they were very pleased with how it looked. And direct from his fishing trip in West Virginia, Al sent me an email. Let's see, they're starting their first round of street sweeping is complete. They're doing blacktop, lawn maintenance. They're getting Sterling Lake ready for the grand opening in a few weeks. And the roadside vegetation maintenance to begin next week. And that's it from the DPW report. I thank you to all the volunteer firefighters for doing what they do best. And Nancy, administrator's report.
Mayor, I just have one thing. It's really a clarification that I wanted to make. There's been a lot of interest recently in Long Hill's purchasing policies, and I just wanted to clarify that this isn't some kind of a purchasing crisis here in this town. On average, we make 165 purchases per month, and so over the last 2 months, so that's 30 purchases. There were 2 that came to my attention that were done improperly. When I was in purchasing classes for QPA, one of the teachers who I had was the purchasing agent for Somerset County. She made it clear to us that she makes her department heads who don't purchase properly go before the county commissioners at their meetings and explain why they didn't do it properly. So as the new QPA, I have taken some of her advice and did something similar by asking you to do resolution when something like that comes up. So these things happen in every town. This is not some kind of major emergency here that, everything is going wrong. I mean, I wish our auditor was still here because he'd probably comment on that. But I just wanted to make it clear, this is just something I've done as the QPA based on advice, what I learned in class with thousands of purchases every year. There's some that aren't done right. It happens. So I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, and one of those purchase orders that was not done necessarily properly was the Shade Tree Commission, and they do wonderful work for the town, and as the liaison, that's probably my fault. I should have done a better job at it.
I should say that the chair did email me to apologize for that.
I know, but I should have done a better job at liaison, so.
It's all your
my bad.
guy, yeah.
It is.
Thank you.
All right. Any discussion items? We don't have any, do we? No, we basically did up front. Any old or new business? Go ahead.
Actually, under new business, there's I had a few, I had one complaint that I talked to Nancy about as far as zoning violations or people not getting permits, and that kind of led me to talk to Alec Meehan before he left, and I think one of the things that he recommended certainly was that we revisit some of the ordinances. And I know I spoke to Nancy; she's working on some of them, but I also spoke to Jack, and he was kind enough to send me the property maintenance ordinances from Bernardsville, and I looked at them, and I actually think they're pretty good. I think they walk a good line, and what I'd like to do is start that process of revamping ours here, because whenever we get somebody to replace Alex, then we're going to have to start enforcing them. And that was.
Go ahead, no, finish that question.
No, and that was one of his issues was our the vagueness of our current ordinances, and then also the enforcement.
Was Alex's issue that he wanted to do stuff, but the ordinances wouldn't allow him to do it?
It was kind of twofold. One was he said they were vague. He said his explanation. He said, look, 30 years ago they were probably really good when we were more rural. Now we have more people, and so they're just they need to reflect the sort of new number of people here in town. The other thing was enforcement. He said that we just don't have people he was writing summonses and they were getting a slap in the wrist, and it was that was obviously detrimental as well.
That's a
But
good
that's
idea.
up to the judge.
Sure.
And we can only set the fines pursuant to state law.
Yep.
And the minimum fine we can set is $100.
But it can be per day, not that they're going to enforce it, though.
Yeah, my conversations led me to believe that some ordinances were vague, some ordinances needed to be added, and other ordinances had no bite.
So he couldn't do his job, basically.
Yep.
All right, I think it's a good idea.
So if you want, Jack can, or I can circulate the Bernardsville so we can all take a look at them and
Yeah.
maybe use that as a start.
We totally redid the Burnsville ordinance about 2 years ago.
Yeah,
For
there's
similar reasons, it just needed to be updated and modernized. We borrowed heavily from the Mendon Borough ordinance, but I think it's a very good ordinance.
Yeah, no, I liked it.
And if there's any Alec really had an issue with, let us know, because then we could beat them up, too.
Yeah.
Some that ours we do have, we don't need to replace, but that's a good idea.
And there are no IP rights for Bernardsville. You're their attorney as well, so we can just use it, right?
Plagiarizes in the law. Where are you
You
coming?
just
I get a license fee.
just cut and paste it, right? Just bring it right over.
Mayor, if I-
Find and replace.
If I could, we did actually visit this issue a few years ago, and never acted on it, right?
All right.
And in fact, Bernardsville is one of the ones we looked at then, probably right after you wrote it. I know, right, one of the big things is the height of grass. That's one of the big things that I think we've gotten a lot of complaints about, that we don't specifically address in our code. So that's just one of the many things that we could look at.
Good idea. All right, probably overdue. All right, any other, go ahead, Jack.
The past township committee didn't want to have a very strict maintenance code, property maintenance code. And in fact, all they did was incorporate by reference the state housing code, which is fairly big.
All right, that's a good idea, so we should move forward with that coming up in the next month or so. Okay. All right, good idea. All right, anything else under old or new business? All right, announcements. As Scott said, the Memorial Day Parade, back for the second year after a hiatus. It is on Monday, obviously, starts at 9 o'clock down on Mercer Street and concludes up at Central School with a ceremony, followed by hot dogs and soda and whatever else, and socializing at Sterling Fire Company afterwards. So come out, everybody. Hopefully it's a great day and we get a good turnout. Then we have the first ever Long Hill PBA community event. Declan, is that what you're calling it, the community event? I got a nod, that's correct. It's right here at Town Hall, June 6th, the Saturday, 1 to 6 p.m. Everybody's invited. I believe you have food trucks. I know DJ Jaresi will be there, I'm guessing, correct? Any games, I think? You have game stuff? So there'll be activities, come down, meet the officers.
There's
and see-
raffles.
And raffles, too, even better. Everybody likes a raffle.
And I believe there's a beer truck.
Oh,
Yes.
beer truck, too, for the adults.
So, and Megan, they did
Vixen.
get their permits for those, right?
Yes, they
Yes.
did, the last week. All right, so don't forget those 2 dates, Monday, and then followed by the PBA first annual community, let's say, party at the Town Hall, June 11th. All right, now we'll open up the any other announcements, I should say? Nothing? All right, open up the meeting to the public. Any questions, comments are limited to 3 minutes, so anybody has anything they want to say, come on up.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? My name is Bob Coletta. I'm a resident of Berkeley Heights, not Long Hill. I'm a registered architect. I recently designed the Pilgrim Chapel at St. Joseph's Shrine. This way you can put a name to a building. I'm here just to talk publicly about Dr. Verliez's property on Gates that he's trying to develop. And my daughter lives downhill from that property, adjacent to it.
The planning board application?
Yes, that's the one in front of the planning board.
Yeah,
right,
we
Mr.
we
Coletta?
really can't talk about it because...
I didn't ask you to talk about it. I'm just telling you something.
Okay, you could...
No, I'm not asking questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thanks.
Not at all.
Thank you.
No, I'm not asking questions. I have concerns on that project. First of all, Dr. Verliez was very good in getting me drawings and reports. I want to thank him publicly. I did it texting, but I'm a little bit more comfortable doing that. There's some major issues. I'm an architect for 50 years. Now, I know it looks like I started when I was 15 years old. That's not the case. But in 50 years, I've seen a lot of projects. I've never seen a project like this one. It has 30 variances. 30. Not 3, but 30. From Gates Avenue to my daughter's property, it's a 20-foot drop. They are, in testimony last night, the engineer said they're cutting down at least 57 trees. In the 57 trees, you're going to rape the land and you're going to have water pouring down onto my daughter's property. Sheet flow. The engineer said, well, all that water is going to go into the seepage pits. No, it's not. Seepage pits are there for the houses, not for the sheet flow from the property. There's nothing proposed at all on this proposal that will stop the water. 3 times during the course of the night, the engineer said nothing is stopping the water from going onto lot 40, my daughter's property. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. Water comes now. Once they put grass, where's this water going? It's going to be like an ice skating rink going down there with water pouring down. And he offered nothing in the way of a design or relief or anything. He used the 3 examples of those seepage pits. That's not acceptable. Seepage pits work by pipes, not surface flow. So that was a wrong answer. I got cut off by the chairman. He's the chairman, so I had to stop. So there's a lot of open-ended. When you look at the engineer's report, every item on that list is open-ended. As a lawyer, if you had to give a contract to somebody and you left the paragraph out and you say, oh, just sign it and we'll fill in that paragraph later, that's not acceptable. As an architect, if I went to a town and I said I want to get a building permit and they said, well, where's the structural aspects of that building? I said, well, you just give me the permit and I'll give it to you later. That's not an acceptable way of doing business. Not at all. You cannot have open-ended things going on. My daughter and everybody else below her is going to be at the mercy of who? The application is being bifurcated. It should not be. Do everything at once. Don't bifurcate the application. That's all I could say. Again, nothing's being offered. The biggest thing is my daughter's property. I'd like to offer a detail. I was told to go get an engineer because I'm only an architect. You know, if I have to, it's not my budget, but if I have to get an engineer, I'll get an engineer. You know, I would hope that, in good faith, your engineer, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to say a word. I'm not looking for you to say anything. I'm not looking for dialogue.
I wanted to say something nice, though. I mean, I'm not trying to be argumentative.
No, that's all right. No, do what's right. Do what's right. I'm okay with that. I'm not looking for, you know. But again, you offered, and you don't have to answer, you offered whatever you think is going to be a help for us. You know, you can hear what I'm saying. A help is to, in my opinion, she needs about a 4-foot wall between her property and his property. And that will probably, with some trees, will slow water down. Rip-rap swales are not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. Because a swale, if you have enough water flow, it'll go through the rip-rap, into the ditch, and then what? I mean, an easy solution would basically put up a wall, get the swales to hold everything, put a head wall on Mitchell, let it go under the street to the creek across the street, the catch basin across the street, and into the river. Simple solution. Very, very simple solution. That's basically it. And again, there's too many open conditions on this. You can't have anybody vote, and it's not you voting, you know, but you cannot have anybody vote on something that's not complete. Berkeley Heights had a problem with their town hall. Their contract was set for design development drawings. And you know what? They have issues now. As an architect, design development drawings is 60% of the project, not 100%. You can't leave open items on a project that's as critical as this, especially with all the sloped area. It's 20 feet from Gates to my daughter's property. I thank you.
No, thank you. I can't say, not on this. I got something else I have a question for him. No, it's about the St. Joseph Shrine.
Oh, go ahead. You can ask about that.
So you mentioned at the beginning you designed?
I did.
Okay, first off, I want to say what a wonderful, I was there for the grand opening, and it's just spectacular.
Thank you.
You did a wonderful, wonderful job, so.
Thank you. I would tell everybody to go see it.
Oh, my goodness. If you haven't been to the shrine, and specifically for the new chapel,
Yep.
please go,
Yeah.
regardless of your religious affiliation.
Yeah. No, it's, I've not to beat this, I've contacted NJIT because of the aspects of the structure, that the students could come and see it, you know, because it's unique. That building may be the only building like that in the country.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Well done, well done.
So,
I would just like to note that Mr. Velez wanted to respond with something nice, but I advised him he
I
shouldn't
mean,
come in at all.
I'll take a nice compliment.
But I advised him he shouldn't come in at all.
Say something
because
nice about the
well,
chapel.
Oh, please.
I'll say
Before the planning board and
Yeah, I
the
mean-
township committee shouldn't come in at all about it, including.
Well, he can't be at the planning board because
I do want to say thank you for coming, and I hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colette.
Thank you very,
Thank you.
very much.
Have a good night.
My daughter really appreciates it. She's been in town, my son lives in town too. So they both, one's on Long Hill, one's on Mitchell. So this way you know.
Thank you.
And very much a part of the community. So.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Coletta. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Kathleen Zurlo. I live at 8 Doherty Avenue in Gillette, which is just behind Bob's daughter. So we get thrown off too. I won't even go into what I was going to do because I couldn't do half the job he just did. But I want to say ditto to everything Bob just said. I have one other silly question. I went on the website today looking for the name of the township engineer. And I was wondering if you could give it to me because I know that the young lady sitting over there is not named Peter. Not here, but the one who was here last night at the planning board. Does anyone have her name to give me?
He's actually the planning board engineer. The township engineer is not the same person as the planning board engineer.
Oh, well, I have the name of the planning board
That's the
engineer?
one I'm told.
That's the one I want.
I'm not sure what, I know the firm, but I don't know.
She was a lovely young lady with long brown hair.
Mr. Ray will get it for you. He's on the planning board. So if you want to hang out a couple minutes, we can get an answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other member of the public have any questions, comments, issues they want to discuss?
It's with McDonald, right? McDonald, hold on, I'll get it.
Oh, it's Mott McDonald, yeah.
Hey guys, Mark Giovanni, Millington. I just wanted to follow up on my previous requests or topics that I brought up the last time, which is really around the number of police, right? We were going to try and look into, hey, we had a quota of 28. Is that still a reasonable number? We were going to look to doing some comps versus the other towns, things of that nature. So I wanted to see if there was any update from you guys in terms of understanding better what we consider to be a full force.
Scott and I are working on something, but I can tell you, we've looked at almost every town in the surrounding area, and every town has a lower ratio of police officers per capita.
Okay.
So I might have looked at 10.
Okay.
And I spoke with some mayors in the surrounding towns, et cetera.
Okay.
And I did confirm Chatham Township, for example, has 22 officers and a population of 11,000. We have 23 and a population of 8629, if I have the math correctly.
Okay.
But we did assure you.
Is that the traditional metric that they use, population size, or are there other metrics as well? 'Cause not that I
Crime
want.
stats.
That's the crime stats and
crime
population are the two primaries.
And
Okay.
I honestly don't have the crime statistics. Chief Naga can speak to that better than I can, of course.
All right.
But one thing I am trying to stick to, though, are towns in our general area that look like us.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look at urban towns. In fact, there's a bill that was proposed, put forth at the state level for urban cities. So they were talking Jersey City, Trenton, et cetera, where I think they were going to go 4 officers per 1,000 population, which would mean a much higher ratio than what Long Hill has. But I don't think we're comparing ourselves to Newark. We're going to compare ourselves to Bedminster, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, Scott, it won't take us long. We could probably come up with some sort of a presentation for the next meeting.
Yeah, no,
For, say, 30
It doesn't
towns.
even, like I said, I'm glad that you have taken it seriously enough that you're looking into it.
Oh,
That's a good
absolutely.
thing.
No, I appreciate you bringing it up.
The other thing I want
We're right above the median.
Yeah.
We're like in the sweet spot,
Okay.
right?
The other thing that I think might be of interest as well, because we're comparing numbers from, let's say 2000 to now, and we're saying that the population already is maybe 300 people less.
200. It's actually about 180.
180, all right? Thank you. But at the same time, we also know that there's different issues prevalent now than there were 20 years ago. So the number isn't as important to me as probably the skill sets and the use and the breakdown of policemen. So I brought up last time, my big concern, and I don't even want to bring it up because of what just happened, right, is policemen in school, right? This is dear to me. I lived 15 miles from Sandy Hook. That's where I grew up in Connecticut, right? I have friends whose kids were in those schools, right?
Sorry to hear that.
It's tough. It's not an easy thing to do, and watched all this stuff go on with them. And obviously what happened recently. So it's imperative to me to not only do we have the right number, but do we have them in the right place? Do we have them? Because I think Chief Naga said recently that we're no longer going to be accredited by, what is it, CALIA, I guess is the accreditation, right?
Yeah, that actually changed because he just submitted a purchase order for that.
It is? Okay, so good.
And I talked this week.
That's an important thing because there's obviously there's more risk litigiously. Like you just stated that you go to a class and they tell you exactly the processes that you should follow. That's the same way for these guys, so that's a good thing.
Well, one thing I'd add, though, while we're on this conversation, because we talk about communities changing, so technology is changing as well.
Yeah.
And technology is a force multiplier, as you're probably aware. Right?
Yep. Dependent. I mean, obviously, there's certain, depending on how it's used, right? And and to your point as well, that also now provides different skill sets that are required, right, within the police department. So, I guess part of my thing is that I walked into this building today, walked through a metal detector. There's a policeman here, right? And so at the same time, this is a small group of 20 people. We have 300 kids in one school, 400 in another. We've got over Watchung Hills, 1,900. I'm curious, were those same steps taken, right? And I'm not sitting here to say that they were. All I'm saying is that I think it's an important thing. You have a massive amount of people consolidated into one general
I agree
area.
with you, by the way, I agree with you 100% on this. After Sandy Hook happened, there was a discussion, and Matt's going to speak to it better than I can.
Okay.
I've always supported the idea of armed guards, whether they are Class 2 or Class 3. In the schools, I know there was a concern back, and Matt wasn't on the committee at that time, there was a concern about having guns in a school. And then after Parkland, it was the same concern. But
And today we've got tons of police presence out there, right? And that's one of the biggest things. You put a beware of dog sign somewhere, people are going to think about twice coming in there. And that's the way I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. All I'm asking is that these things be taken into consideration, and again, that we find some way to resolve it, because I think we all can agree that our higher up government's not going to do anything for us. It's up to this committee to determine how we protect our schools effectively. So,
Well, actually, I don't think your kids are probably not in school here in 2018, right?
no.
So after Parkland, they did a school survey. I'm sure I participated in it then, and I talked to Dr. Mucci about it today. And she said that based on the survey, the student did the survey, they surveyed all the families that are in the school system at the time. I don't know what the results were, the Board of Ed does. But they said based on that survey, they said a lot of improvements were made, and they made a decision at that point, that was a school board, not us, regarding to have officers in the school. And they wouldn't be our officers, they'd be the Class 2 or Class 3s. So that was a decision they made, and they would that would be on them to finance it and pay for it. And I don't know what their ultimate reason was for not doing it.
Do you guys have influence over that? I guess there's
really
no
our
kind of influence that we can use to work towards that.
Oh, no, you can go to the board. You can go to the Board of Ed, because Dr. Mooch said she got at least 3 inquiries. This was early this morning. 3 inquiries this morning about the same topic you're just bringing up. Obviously, I don't know who it was, but that's something you'd contact the Board of Ed, Dr. Mucci. That would be their purview. Like, obviously, staffing the schools, like you said, we had a police presence at the schools today. Yeah, we technically have we don't have anything with that. That's the police department's decision how to deploy their personnel. But actually, inside the school, that's the Board of Ed's. So that's and like I said, I don't fault you because you weren't living here. I don't even know if you were living here in 2018.
No. Well, we just moved here.
Okay, so you wouldn't be privy to the survey because you didn't have any kids in the school. So, but if you contact the Board of Ed, Dr. Mucci can give you, or somebody over there can give you that information, and maybe she wasn't here then, but at least somebody else may be able to
understand how
walk into the thought process.
Okay.
And so it was addressed. So.
And I want to thank Dr. Mucci because she offered today to the mayor that maybe we can have a joint meeting. This is something that I think the committee has looked forward to for some time. To talk about many shared issues, this being the primary one.
Yeah.
It's a
And
broader
I can
thing
tell
than just
you,
that, because-
I can't speak for the rest of the committee.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. If you go into a building in New York City,
I can't go-
there are
yeah.
armed guards, you've got to show ID, you have to get your photograph taken. It's much easier to get into a school. And I don't know if everybody out there is going to agree with me, but I've supported armed guards in schools since sadly.
We had a lockdown today at Watchung Hills.
Well,
Matt
that
and
was
I were
one of the
talking to
things-
each other on the phone. I mean, I've got 2 kids in high school.
Yeah, right.
So you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, and that was one of my concerns, right? Is that I now have a young daughter who is scared, right? Like, and I want them to do these things, but sitting in a corner is not going to deter someone, right? I think we all can agree that, right? It's not just going to go away. While those things are helpful and they're good processes to have to control whatever, but I think other processes need to be put in place. So I don't want to take any more time. I just wanted to thank you guys. I just wanted to say, right, hey, have we addressed this? I'm glad we're making progress. I don't need answers immediately, but as long as we're making progress and we're having these conversations, I'm cool with it. So thanks.
I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Oh, before I forget, I just got a message from Miss Scanlon. The parade starts at 9:30 on Monday morning, not 9 a.m. So,
Mayor, if you, the engineer Samantha Anello from,
ma'am, do you want to? We can give you the. Brendan can get it for you too.
Yeah, I was going to get.
well, you can't
Contact.
ask her questions. The questions about ongoing applications have to be asked on the record at the meeting? Okay.
And Mayor,
Go ahead.
the police party, did you say it was June 11?
I think that's what it
Yes.
said.
Okay, I wasn't
Is that the
sure if
correct
it
date?
had
It's a
it.
Saturday, so
It's
that's
a Saturday,
Saturday.
June 11.
For you, it's,
Yes.
for you, it's June 12th.
Yeah, June 12th.
You may not see many people.
All right. Any other members of the public have any issues, questions, whatever?
Charles Arenowitz, Millington. 2 topics tonight. Depending on your response, it may go to 3. FirstNet. I spoke remotely at the last meeting that I was amazed that we were grilling Chief Naga over FirstNet in public. Something that I said at the time should have taken months ago by this township committee and the township administrator. So what do we do tonight? We spend 55 minutes looking at a 24-inch screen to hear a presentation from FirstNet that we can't see, and we got this 65-inch screen up here. One, technology's got to change, and you ought to be embarrassed to say, here, Chuck, come look at the 24-inch screen when we put a man on the moon 53 years ago. But you wasted 55 minutes of their time, your time, that you should have resolved with the chief in discussions with FirstNet. Waste of time. Last meeting, this meeting. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Topic 2. Taxes. Oh, we're out of debt. Congratulations to all of you. But guess what? We, as registered voters, voted to sell the sewer plant, got $14 million or whatever it was, and you're mandated by state statute to pay off the debt. You had nothing to do with that. We owned the plant, we voted to sell the plant, and you say, oh, we're out of debt. Don't claim that. It was state mandated. Okay? Then we have a debt service that we're not paying. You say, oh, we didn't increase taxes. We had for 20 years 1.6. Well, if you'd taken the debt service, you would have reduced taxes, but you didn't. So look in the mirror. Then we say, oh, we're debt-free. Maybe I'm hearing things, but I attended meetings here where we bonded $2.5 million for fire apparatus. Oh, because we couldn't afford it then, and we were strapped financially, and now we're $2.5 million bonded in debt. We're not debt-free. Stop telling the stories and be truthful to the taxpayers. Any response? Because I got a third one.
Go with the third one.
I don't like disrespect that I received from all of you, including the mayor. You embarrassed Tom Baer, God bless his soul. You harass Chief Naga, and you harass me. I'm sick of it. And so is Chief Naga, and Tom Baer would say the same thing if he were alive today. We are taxpayers. We've served this community, and stop harassing us when you don't like questions we ask. And this is horrible, 24 inches. Any comments, Mr. Mayor God?
Yes, actually, Randy can come up and discuss the 2.5 million fire. Randy, can you answer that question while you're still here about the fire apparatus?
We didn't bond that.
Randy can.
It says it on the resolution.
I don't know whether I should thank you, Mayor.
No.
No, thank you. We did do a bond ordinance for fire apparatus, and the financial plan is to continue what we've been doing, started last year and this year, to put money aside each year to pay off that debt, not to go out and bond and create a bond for that. So we do have a, if you will, a deferred charge to future taxation, which will be raised in future budgets. So that's the financial plan as it stands today. What happens 5 years from now? I wish I could tell you. I'd be a very wealthy man. But you know, that's the financial plan that we have put in place today. And so far for 2 years, we've stuck to that plan.
So no interest, no interest.
Right, and there would be no interest on that, so, you know, we'd be paying ourselves.
Question for Randy. Are we in debt or not?
I think I just answered that. We have a item on our financials called deferred charges to future taxation. Thank you.
We have not borrowed any money.
No,
yes,
we have not borrowed any money.
So do we owe 2.5 million for the fire trucks, or are they free?
To ourselves.
Yeah.
They're free.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other members of the public have any issues?
I don't have any issues, Mayor.
No, I mean, you can ask questions, whatever it is. I don't mean in a negative way.
No. Good evening, Frank Liberato, 589 Heritage Road. I had two questions. First one was, I know you just put out to bid the streetscape project on Main Avenue, which is about 22,000 square yards of mill and pave. It's going to, you know, have some sidewalk work, ADA ramps, about $80,000 in benches and planters. My question is, what results were found in the inspection report from the municipal engineer in regards to the condition of the infrastructure, specifically the stormwater infrastructure under the road? Because in the project, there's only 15 feet of pipe replacement in the entire road. And the infrastructure of that road is quite old. There's corrugated pipe, there's RCP in the road. And I just wanted to know, was that taken into consideration? Because this project's about $1.1 million. And to redo that entire roadway, you know, my questions are, what are the conditions, especially with flood mitigation, stormwater management? You know, lead piping's probably every bit of 50, 60 years old, and corrugated pipe deteriorates over time. You get failures, collapses, obstructions, and generally, in a lot of towns that we do work for, the engineering firm will do a report, so I assume you must have had one before they put this out to bid, where they actually send, you know, robots through, they map it, they identify the areas that are compromised and the sections of replacement. I was just surprised that out of that entire roadway going up to Central, where they're going to be, you know, doing all the improvements, that there's only 15 feet of pipe in the entire project for replacement, and there's only 2 or 4 catch basins for rebuild. You know, it's an aged infrastructure. I would hope before you invest all that money in rebuilding the road and making it really nice, curb to curb, that we fully and thoroughly inspected the infrastructure underneath, because I would hate to see you spend $1.2 million doing this whole road to find out in a year you got pipes or a sewer collapse in the road. Because I know the sanitary sewer, I believe New Jersey American Water has been doing relining of the sanitary. So we know the sanitary is in good shape, but the storm structure also impacts flooding and impacts the residents in that area. And I wanted to know if anyone was aware of what due diligence was done and what the reports found before they went forward with this project.
I'd have to ask the engineer. I have no idea off the top of my head.
Well, you're exactly right. I'd have to ask the engineer, but I will say that our stormwater pipes throughout town are deteriorating, particularly Sterling, because that's the oldest. I believe that you were awarded a contract for $11,000 to replace part of that pipe?
Yes, further up the road, up where the water main break was in front of St. Vincent's.
the church, right.
Yeah, there's a 75-foot stretch
Right,
up there.
There's also
And
part.
It's pretty deteriorated. It was the falling apart, and there were actually a couple different types of pipe connected that had failed. So seeing something like that, I was just surprised that the rest of the road is okay.
Well, so I know that DPW replaced part of it up by Chase Bank. I would have to talk to the engineer. I mean, I know that the project, I don't know if you're aware, we had to combine two projects into one.
Because it was bid out earlier in the fall, right?
It was
And
bid
then
out
rebid
earlier,
again?
it came in way too high, and, so we had to combine the two of them. We actually had to add some money to this capital ordinance because this came in higher than we anticipated as well. So,
Yeah, I would just be concerned. I wouldn't want you to spend all that money and then we find out, within a year, we get a sinkhole or collapse and be like, none of that was investigated,
yeah, I mean, I'd have to talk to the engineer. Like I said, I mean, we're aware of, that most, I won't say most, that a lot of pipes in town for stormwater are deteriorating just based on age,
Yes.
based on how they were constructed.
Correct.
Again, Sterling's the oldest.
And when you have a high water table and you have a lot of water laying in the pipes, that accelerates the deterioration, especially the older metal corrugated generally will rot out from the bottom up because the water lays in the bottom and then you lose it and then it actually just starts going into the ground and you're not actually carrying the water away and then you get the failure and the collapse.
Right, so it is something that the DPW director, the engineer, and myself have been talking about, coming up with a plan for next year's budget to address portions of town at a time, because they're going to have to be replaced at some point or another. Otherwise, they do cause sinkholes. So as far as this particular plan, I don't have the answer what the engineer.
And I mean, on a going forward basis, I mean, obviously for money for next year, there are companies you can hire, not us, we don't do it, so I'm not here pitching for myself. But there are companies that will come out, they'll do GPS mapping, they'll put the robot in there, they'll give you CAD files, and they'll actually give you locations and conditions and say, you could do it, like you said, a section of the town at the time, and identify and give you a map and say, listen, these got to be replaced for the next 5 years.
We do. We have a quote from one of those companies to do exactly that. It's not cheap. So it's something that we're going to have to address in, next year's budget, future budgets.
Nancy, if for some reason if that hasn't been done yet, will it affect the work that's been done? Can we wait and
no.
get that done?
Unfortunately, this ship has sailed because of the time constraints based on DOT grants. We have to award on June 8th. So, and we couldn't, I know that Committeeman Verleza had wanted to add additional lighting, the clock, things like that. We couldn't add another thing into that bid because it already came in over what we needed. So we couldn't go back for both financially but also timing. We couldn't go back now.
Right.
It is something I'll ask the engineer about, and we can talk about it, but I don't think there's anything we can do with this bid particularly.
So if we open, if that hasn't been done, 'cause I'm just wondering if that hasn't been done, and we want it to be done, can we award the bid and then kind of add that do whatever we need to do to inspect those pipes and repair them and have it as an add-on?
Have it done prior to the work beginning, you mean?
Or while the work's been done, whenever it would be best to be
I mean,
done.
I think that could be done. I mean, we haven't budgeted for that, so I'm not sure how we'd handle that. Randy's still here, but he probably wouldn't be able to answer that off the top of his head. I'll talk to Mark about it when he gets back from vacation. It couldn't be done, it maybe could be done prior to, but can't be done in conjunction with. You know what I mean? It can't be done on this bid.
Right, okay. All right, so it can be like an add-on to the bid?
Not an add-on to the bid, no, but
Right.
maybe a separate
An add-on
bid.
to the project.
Add-on to the project.
Yeah.
So there might be maybe some kind of, well, I guess you would have to do the inspection first too, before you did anything, have somebody inspect the line. Maybe the engineer did do a
Well,
report.
I know DPW did, the DPW director did take a camera and look at a lot of the pipe. I'm not sure exactly they looked at the whole road or not.
Yeah, there's a lot of footage in that road,
Yeah.
so
So-
that would just be the concern. I would just hate to see all that money spent in good earnest to beautify the street, and then, we're just going over something, and now we gotta go back and rip it up. And do we know if all the utility companies were notified that if they had to replace any infrastructure before you build and pave the road, like the gas and the water company and everybody?
I believe the engineer's
Okay.
taking care of that.
All right, no, that's a good question. And, full disclosure, we did bid the project also, in case anybody asks, we did not get it. We're low bid on it, we weren't low bid. But my understanding, from a conflict standpoint, or a question in regards to that, I know that if you're on the committee, like if I were to get elected, I cannot bid any work. But it does allow me to do other things in town, like what Committeeman Velez is doing. I can, develop other things, like you could do other things. In other words, I thought, just asking myself, I can't do business with the town as a contractor, but you can do other things with the town as long as it's not a contract with the town. Is that basically the understanding, Mr. Pigeon?
Yes.
Okay, so you're free to do other things, other business activities, just,
They may create,
We're not
they
here
may
to give you
create,
legal advice.
they may create other conflicts
right,
in your duties.
right, okay.
But in general, you can't enter into contracts with the town.
Right, that's what I was asking, so I won't be able to do anything going forward. Okay. All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Megan, anybody else from the public? Seeing none. Anybody online?
Anybody on Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
See everybody at the
Second.
9:30 Monday. Thank you, Vic. We're out of here.
Thank you.